So, I am now over 200 hours into Crimson Desert, and this game has taken a part of my life in a good way. Since my last video, I kept playing, I moved beyond Hernand, and spent a bit more time exploring regions like Pailune and Demeniss, progressed further into the main story, finished some more side quests and faction quests, and discovered even more depth the game has to offer. I've also now properly spent real time with the other playable characters aside from Kliff, getting to see more of their skills, weapons, and how differently they play. And because of that, I think I understand this game far more now. This video will be more of a narrative overview, deep dive, and gameplay commentary. I'm walking through the story, sharing my thoughts as we go, and going way deeper into what Crimson Desert actually becomes once you're past the opening hours. But fair warning, this video will contain spoilers, and quite a bit. So if you guys are still getting into this game and you are around chapter 6 or chapter 7, or even more earlier than that, I highly recommend you guys clicking away from this video. If you've been wondering what this story has to offer after chapter 7, you're in the right place. Here's a very filtered quick recap of the story I've seen so far. Crimson Desert follows Kliff, a soldier of the Greymanes, and the story opens up with the Greymanes getting ambushed by the rival faction called the Black Bears. Led by Myrden, their leader Gian is killed and Kliff barely survives, pulled from the water by a fisherman named Sebastian. From there, Kliff gets pulled into something way bigger than a faction war. There's a parallel plane called the Abyss, and the boundary between it and the real world is crumbling. A figure called Ulston tells Kliff that he has to restore balance. The White Crow grants him wings, and he picks up the Vision, or as the French call it, the Visionné. But anyways, he gets this device, and it lets him see past events. The middle chapters are about rebuilding. Kliff reunites with surviving Greymanes. Marius, Jan, Andrew, Narya, and Onka, takes down threats like the Redevil. Very cool fight on lore, by the way, and sets up Shakatu as the new head of the Gold Leaf Merchant Guild. Then things start stacking. A new faction called the Jackals, led by Ludwig, seizes the city of Pailune. By the way, Ludwig used to be a part of the Greymanes, but anyways, a Deminis delegation attacks a banquet at Hernand Castle with a beast, and Kliff teams up with a secret group called the Blue Fangs to march on Pailune and take back the capital from the Jackals, as well as a stronghold to take down Myrden and the Black Bears. That's where it gets brutal. Kliff goes after Myrden, but Ludwig, now with one arm less, knocks Kliff on a beam and leaves him wounded. Onka finishes Ludwig himself, and before he dies he confesses that he sold out Gian and was working with Myrden the whole time. Oh wow! Chapter 7 closes with the Greymanes mourning Gian at his grave, and that's exactly where we're picking up now. So this is where chapter 8 kicks in, and a lot happens here fast. We pick up right after everything in Pailune. Kliff recovers from that beamfall, and Dwayne decides to stay behind to rebuild in Gian's honor. It's kind of this quiet passing of the torch moment that I really liked. But then the world comes in that Myrden has fled all the way to Deminis, which means this whole thing isn't over. And from there, Thorstein hands Kliff a letter from a mysterious woman named Magu, along with the personal journal of Gian, their fallen leader. And that sets off two threads at once. One, you're reading your leader's private thoughts, which hits harder than I expected, and two, Magu's letter leads you into rescuing her sister Wuza. By the time you pulled her out, both of them reveal themselves as witches, and they promise to repay the debt. That's where the story takes a sharp turn into political territory. Kliff starts investigating the Bastier faction, meets Countess Colette Azirian, and learns that Duke Caliburn is the one who purged the king's loyalists to seize the throne. Using the Vision, you witness the Blood Coronation, a massacre where Caliburn personally killed everyone in the hall. It's a rough scene, and it properly shifts the scale of what you are up against. And here's where things get really wild. Caliburn actually detects Kliff viewing the memory and pulls him into that memory. Kliff gets captured, and the game flips you over to the main. Now, just to jump back into Kliff getting pulled into the memory, I honestly felt like this cutscene was really cool to see, and I'm really a big fan of the Abyss powers that there is in this game. But anyways, back to the story. Playing as Damian was quite the trip for me because her moveset is completely different from Kliff's. As you're watching right now, I have really struggled the first hour with Damian, and it's not the dev's fault, it's just my complete lack of learning a character from scratch. I was just so used to Kliff. I had over 100 hours with Kliff, and I haven't really used other characters except for maybe 10 minutes or maybe an hour with Onka, but that's all I had with him, and I mainly focused with Kliff, and that's okay. But Damian uses guns, and her traversal feels different. Her combat rhythm is also different, and it took a minute to adjust. And at this point, the story doesn't really tell you what to expect. Where did Kliff go with these witches? Am I going to find Damian Swordmaster? So honestly, I had no idea what there was to come, but to be honest, while playing Chapter 8, I was still understanding the chapter's story, so there was some things that I might have overlooked in this moment. But story aside, I did what I think any player does when they're suddenly handed a new character. I took the opportunity to practice playing as Damian. Cue the training montage. Now, while I was prepping on what is to come, I noticed that there was an issue while playing a character other than Kliff, and that is the fact that the puzzles were still not able to be interacted in a sense. What I mean by this is, even though Pearl Abyss is fixing and also added the Abyss skills to Damian and Onka and will continue working on that, you still can't wear the Vision helmet to view previous memories. Now, I'm not sure if the helmet works in a sense of a bond with Kliff, but this removes the ability to interact with puzzles that might need the Vision to help complete it. So I hope this is something that the devs can fix down the pipeline. Putting this aside, Damian's path is where things took a bit of a turn. I'm starting to feel a bit more interested in the story. Damian finds her swordmaster, Beatrice, murdered, tracks down the killer, a man named Bastier, and I think from all the fights I had so far, the cutscene that I had with Bastier and this fight sequence between them has to be one of the coolest things I've had in Crimson Desert so far. I think the other one that might have topped this would have been the fight with the Reed Devil. And this story of revenge of what happened to Damian Swordmaster is really, really cool. And the two different fight sequences with Bastier was honestly really, really fun to see and really, really fun to play. And it was so fun that after a couple of hours of playing as Damian, I was able in one try to take down Bastier. I went from playing Damian in the first couple of minutes, I was completely struggling, to fighting Bastier and absolutely abolishing the guy. It made me feel a really, really nice sense of joy. Before we continue with the story and gameplay, I want to quickly talk about the state of Crimson Desert right now. While I've been putting over 200 hours into the game, Pearl Abyss has also been busy updating it. In fact, while making this video, patch 1.04 dropped, and it's probably one of the biggest updates in the game so far. As a quick recap, it added things like new difficulty options, extra combat skills, smoother puzzle interactions, inventory improvements, camp quality of life changes, mount adjustments, and a lot of fixes for smaller frustrations players had. And my favorite, that we can have pet birds come with us on our journey. They've also already talked about what's coming next, including the ability to replay boss fights and a system where the enemy factions can actually retake strongholds and locations you previously captured, which should make the world feel a lot more dynamic. And honestly, that stuff matters in a game like this. When you're spending dozens or even hundreds of hours in a world, better menus, faster interactions, and systems that keep changing around you make a real difference over time. And it even further cements my point from my last video that the developers are paying attention. That doesn't mean every problem is solved yet. There are still areas I'd like to see improved, especially with the character utility and a few systems, but I believe that the devs will eventually continue ironing out more of these areas. After Chapter 8, I finally get to play as Kliff again, and honestly, I really missed him. Even though as a character, he isn't really the strongest written main character so far, just the fact that I get to play him again after Damian. Again, not saying that Damian was a bad experience, just I was really used to playing as Kliff. It was really nice to get back into, and really nice to get to have his dirty fighting style again, and have all the stuff that I've had built out in the dozen of hours before playing as Damian. But anyways, he wakes up in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by almost magical children. I don't know what to call them exactly. As he is trying to figure out what's happening, he hears a voice in his head and suddenly everything around him freezes. The children, time, everything stops, except Kliff. The voice says, "You can finally hear me, now you need to find me." Kliff has no idea who or what this being is, but he sets off. He soon meets the witch sisters, Wuza and Megu. Kliff first thanks them for saving him back in chapter 8, and then he tells them about the voice he heard and how he needs to find it. The sisters immediately understand what he meant by this, and they say they help, but to do that, he needs to head to another place, the Crimson Desert. We finally got to the title sequence. I was right there near the cave, ready to continue the story, just about to enter it, but deep down I didn't really want to rush into the story just yet. I miss playing as Kliff, and I wanted to explore Deminis, because it's a huge area, even compared to Hernand, and it's the military capital of Pailune, so I was genuinely excited to dive into that world a bit more before heading into the Crimson Desert. So after all that, I actually fast traveled to Deminis. Like I mentioned in a previous video, once the story pushes you towards another region, whether it's Pailune or Deminis, you unlock not just the main quest, but a whole set of side quests too. So as soon as I got to Deminis, I started seeing pop-ups everywhere, new side quests, bounties, and a bunch of things to do. I hopped on my mount, checked out bounty posters, and I honestly have a couple of hours of footage of me just soaking it all in rather than rushing to the quest. Literally just walking around the city of Deminis and comparing that scale of the city of Deminis to the city of Hernand. And I'm totally blown away that the cities just keep on getting bigger, and the world, the regions just keep on getting bigger for me and a bit more fleshed out in a sense. And while mentioning that the city of Deminis is huge, I even stopped to watch a circus show, saw people do tricks, and the whole place felt alive to me. I explored shops in the city, grabbed some fresh quests, picked up bounties, and just wandered around. Honestly, seeing Deminis, its architecture and its scale, it was a pretty incredible experience, especially this far into the game. But I didn't want to burn out, so I just took it step by step, removing the fog slowly from the map and really taking in the sights. I explored the countryside and even went down to the docks, and it was absolutely beautiful. After that, I jumped into some boss fights. I wanted to see the dirty fighting of Kliff again, and I wanted to use my sword that I very much missed. I took on the Half Moon Reaper, the Full Moon Reaper. It was awesome to see how strong Kliff had become and how naturally I could handle him again. I even unlocked a new skill, Evasive Shot, which felt funny after 100 hours, but that's the magic of Crimson Desert. And near Deminis, I stumbled into a little wildlife park, almost like a zoo. The caretakers wore wolf or fox masks, and the whole landscape was just such a cool little discovery. It's these moments that remind me why I'm still so drawn into this world. After all that exploring, and honestly getting lost in it, I headed back to the circus because there was a quest waiting. As soon as I stepped inside, the ground started shaking, and out of nowhere, a massive boss fight erupted right there in the circus. It was one of the trickier ones at first. I didn't even know how to approach it. It had this glass dome in a sense, and while I could try to break it, I ended up targeting its hands because it was even more easier to do so. You basically had to stab through the dome and able to break it, but that wasn't really doing it for me. So when I wore it down and got through its first cycle of health, the helmet blew off and I took it out. And my reward, a funny little jester helmet that shoots confetti. Not the most badass gear, but it did make me laugh. After that, I spent some time stargazing. Yes, the game has constellations, by the way. I don't know their purpose yet, but it felt peaceful. And then I fought some rock creatures, which were really tough but fun. And then I went up this mountain where these rock creatures were, and I got to fight its big daddy of a boss fight. And I got through him as well. I did quite a bit of boss fights during the last 80 or 100 hours from the last video, so it's really nice to see though. Again, I know I said a lot, but it's really nice to see that I can actually take down bosses without any problem so far. Playing as Kliff. But anyways, it was just nice seeing these different boss varieties. There were a couple of similar ones though, like the moon bosses, but overall it did feel fresh. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, by the way, is back in the Circus boss fight, I did say that this boss erupted from the ground of the Circus, so my mind said that the Circus was completely destroyed and that the poor people can no longer see the Circus shows, but lo and behold, apparently right after the boss fight, out of thin air, the Circus was rebuilt. Or it actually looked like it never got destroyed in the beginning. It would have been nice if, again for Emergence's sake, if the Circus got completely destroyed and you would send a mission dispatch from the camp to kind of help the people in Deminis kind of fund or rebuild with your own guys from the Grey Mains to rebuild the Circus. And then maybe you get like the Circus head or something to give you some big nice reward to thank you to not only killing the boss that was lurking underneath, but to also rebuild the Circus and making families happy again. But again, that's just me looking a bit too much into it. But after all those boss fights, I was getting focused on making Kliff even stronger, because I was seeing all these videos online through Instagram and YouTube shorts and all that of just these different ways of how Kliff fights enemies, and I really felt like I was playing a completely different game, or just that I had a massive skill issue. So I was just focusing on doing that. So I even found a cool, like very cool badass armor set that unfortunately does not fit me. So now I'm even more motivated to find something that both looks cool but that also fits my biz gears in them. So I'm here to pace myself because this game has so much to offer and I want to take it slow. I want to go around and find the best armor that visually looks nice and that I can level up to the max. But yeah, that takes to the other point, which is I really don't want to burn myself out. This is the first time I'm playing Crimson Desert from start to finish, so I want it to be a one-of-a-kind experience on the slow burn, and with the future updates like the upcoming replayable boss fights and enemy stronghold takeovers, I'm definitely going to be back for more. But for now, I feel like that I'm only halfway through to what this title has to offer, and right now what's holding me to see the other big part of this game is heading through that cave and ready to see where I get to take Kliff next in this wide adventure of Crimson Desert. And that's really it for this video. I hope you guys like it. If you do, please do press the like button below, and if you really want to see more, click the subscribe button as well. Honestly, I've said it so many times this video, but there is so much to see, and I really want to enjoy everything around me. I'm trying to take you guys along this journey of me playing the game and kind of giving my opinions while playing it, and also showcasing the absolute diverse scenery of this game. There was, for example, one point where I even went hunting down a lion, this giant black lion that I was showcased by this, I think he was some sort of hunter that no longer hunts anymore, and that's where I mentioned I got all this nice armor sets that I wasn't able to wear. Big bummer, but anyways. And there's just so much things to do in this game. I could spend hours, and I could most likely compile a 1-hour video of just all the things that I've saw so far, if not more. So there will be another part to this video. I just want to give myself a very small break before I get back into it, because there's so much to see. And in the next video, I'm going to most likely tackle a couple more quests in Deminis and get right into the main story-ish and to jump into the Crimson Desert, because if you compare the Crimson Desert map to Hernand or to Deminis, I think it's 1 Hernand and a half in terms of scale, so it's a pretty big region. So I want to see how that takes me, and I'm really excited to see Delasia, which is the technical marvel of this entire continent of Pailune, so I just want to see what it has to offer. So yeah, the next video, that will most likely be the focus on this. I maybe might try to finish the entire story as well, and then we'll see where that takes us. This game has become a part-time job for me at this point, and I am loving it. I am really loving it, especially when I got to see, like I was walking around and I got to see a zoo. That is really cool to see. But anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. Once again, thank you guys so very much for your support from my last video. I am really happy to be back, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye, and stay tropical as always.